Welcome to Dr. M's Vodcast, a vodcast with a mission to connect continuous improvement professionals across the world.
I expect to see sparks fly, though.
Well, namaste, Dr. M here, and welcome. And something I always say something good about namaste is when we say good morning, it's namaste. When we say good afternoon, it's namaste. When we say good evening, it's namaste. Welcome is namaste, and goodbye and see you again is namaste. So namaste, and thank you very much for all of you all. And I really admire those who are joined from US. It's practically midnight cross. Oh, well, thank you very much for joining us. And over to Mr. Balaji to introduce the subject and introduce Jackie to us. And Jackie, thank you very much that you spared your Sunday with the Deming family.
It's wonderful to do so.
Go ahead, Balaji. All yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. M. And echoing what Dr. M is saying, namaste to all of you. You can interpret that as good morning, good evening, wherever you are, in whichever part of the world. We're happy to have you here. As you know, we're launching our monthly series with Dr. Jackie Graham. Every month, she's going to be appearing on this forum, sharing with us all her learning, what she's had throughout her life. Talking about today's topic, it's about one of the four pillars of profound knowledge, understanding variation. Just a brief, this is for those who might be uninitiated. Most of you are, but I don't mind going through this. The concept of the fact that there would never be a constant, steady output from any process that existed in the world, whether it's a man-made process or a naturally occurring process, was observed very keenly by maybe many, but very differently by Walter Schuhart. And in the 1920s, when he was studying the processes inside AT&T upon request from the people there, he not only discovered something about processes, he also ended up inventing a tool to deal with what we today call as variation. He, of course, identified it as fluctuation. Very simply, he said, no process in the world, whether it's a man-made process or a naturally occurring process, will ever exhibit a constant, steady output. It would always be varying. It would be fluctuating. But then he said there exists a natural band of fluctuation. And then suddenly, sometimes there would be some unnatural variation that occurs, or fluctuations that occur. And like I said, not only did he observe that, he ended up inventing a tool to distinguish between fluctuation that occurs in a natural way and fluctuation, if I may use the term, occurs unnaturally. The power behind the tool that he created is to demarcate these two kinds of fluctuations and then get into the causes of those fluctuations. And that was his genius. He said that the natural fluctuation happens because of the properties of the process or the system under study itself. But the unnatural fluctuations that happen, they happen due to causes that are alien to the process or system under study. And once you have these in place, you could, well, isolate the causes which are unnatural and deal with them differently from those which are natural. So we're going to be learning more about that from Dr. Jackie Graham. Dr. Jackie, what do I say about her? There's lots that has been said in her resume, and it's all for everybody to see. But I'll give you my personal interaction with her. Well, she is a statistician, and a statistician just like Dr. Deming and like my guru, Professor Henry Neve, the same mold. And in fact, I was introduced to her through Professor Henry Neve. And we have had wonderful interactions. I think this was almost, I was just looking back, Jackie, it was 10 years ago. And
oh, no. There you go.
Yeah. And it was all thanks to Henry. He took whatever I, throughout and in the form of my understanding of Dr. Deming's works and put it into in 12 days. But Jackie went through that, and there she said she added on to it. Uh, we are privileged to be in the presence of people like Dr. Jackie Graham and William Schirkenbach, along with a handful of people who are left in the world who directly interacted with Dr. W. Edwards Deming, and not only interacted, they learned uh, with him and from him. I'm bold enough to say with him because I am very sure both Bill and Jackie would agree that Dr. Deming kept saying, "May I not learn?" He was a lifelong learner, and he made no excuses for learning till the end of his life. So we should be very privileged to be interacting with her. I don't really want to take much time. We are all here to listen to Dr. Jackie Graham and her take on variation and what we need to do about it. There are lots of interpretations that are there out in the world, but let's hear it from, well, I can't say a horse's mouth.
Just be careful.
Neither can I say a mare's mouth. So I just say, let's hear it from the source, and who better than Jackie? So take it away, Jackie. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. Or I'm going to try to. Did that work?
Yes, it did. It's
Okay.
loading. It's loading. Here we are. Okay.
Okay. All right. So I apologize for some people. This is going to be very basic, but for others, hopefully, what I want to do is stimulate thought and thinking. That's what I'm trying to achieve. So just Balaji has started, but I will continue to just explain what my journey is. So the photograph here was taken in Dr. Deming's study some time ago, as you can probably tell. But it's one of my favorite photographs because we were both very relaxed that day, as I'm sure you can see. My background, originally I'm an engineer. I did chemical engineering, but I wasn't welcomed by the chemical engineering companies because I was female. And it was at a time when there was a lot of sexism in the workplace. And so I actually moved to the motor industry, to General Motors. And I did statistics and the application of statistics in the motor industry to help improve quality and productivity. That's kind of where I started. So when I went to work for General Motors, we were just starting to get to understand what statistics is and what we could do with the data. We were very keen to learn more and do more with it. So their focus was, how do we improve quality and productivity in Europe? I visited more than 500 suppliers, so I was very much on the supplier end, because you know what it's like when you assemble something, right? It really is dependent on the quality of those things that you when you, as I'm sure Bill can tell you as well, you have to get the parts right. Otherwise, you're not going to get very far. What we were doing at the time was fairly unique, because this is way back in the 1980s, and not a lot of quality systems were even in place in the UK at the time. There were some basic ones, but it was really at the start. It was before ISO 9000. And I worked with the universities to understand statistics better. If I'd have known, I could have gone across the water to General Motors head office and got more information, but we got manuals, but we didn't get education. We got manuals at that point. So what I was doing was applying statistics in a different way, and with the universities, I did a master's and doctorate in the application of statistics into the motor industry. I joined a Deming organization, and I was sent to a Deming seminar in London that was with Henry Neve as well. And it was fascinating for me because I had learned all these, I felt like I'd learned lots of pieces. I felt like I had a jigsaw puzzle. And what happened in that seminar was that I found I had a picture. It wasn't individual bits of a puzzle. It was actually a complete picture. And Dr. Deming helped me see that and helped me put the pieces of the puzzle together so I could think more clearly. And he completely changed the way I thought. And it gave me structure and form to the way I thought and the way I expressed my questions. It enabled me to see things a lot more clearly. This meant that I could see the direction to improve businesses and to help our suppliers improve more easily. And I can honestly say life has never been the same. I assisted Dr. Deming in 4-day seminars, including ones in-house at Ford and General Motors, did 2-day seminars and did some consulting work with him as well. And this is how I got to meet Bill previously. I've consulted in many, many industries since that time. Manufacturing, I still consult in today, but I've done a lot of work in government. I've done a lot of work in healthcare, especially a lot in transport with trains around the world. And I've even done statistics in sport. Those of you who know me will know that one of my passions is Australian rules football. And I was very fortunate to be involved in helping them with their statistics early on. I formed my own company in 2015 called Statistical Edge. You will not find a website because I haven't got round to it yet. I always say when I'm quiet enough, I'll create a website. I've not yet been quiet enough. So there's no point in putting a website up there when I'm already too busy. So let's talk about variation. My biggest concern is that data is everywhere. We can't move for it. It is absolutely everywhere. But often the focus is we grab one number, usually an average. We ignore the variability. We respond at how that single number has changed. So we look at individual results. We don't look at a process or look over time. I'm going to give you an example. The Australian unemployment rate, as described recently, has fallen to 4.3%. I hope you're all suitably impressed that it's falling. Are you suitably impressed? 4.3%, I have to say, is a very impressive number, right? Our unemployment rate is very low. We're actually very short of people down in Australia. But the falls absolutely sticks in my throat. Why does it? Because of what it's hiding. This is actually an unemployment rate over a much longer period of time, all the way back to 1959. And what you can see, that 4.3 is here. And you see it? It's that very last point. And you can actually see there's a general trend in an upward direction here, not in really a downward direction at all. That little blip you can see here was COVID. And you can see that Australia bounced out of COVID quite well. And then since COVID, we are starting to gradually increase. So to describe the unemployment rate as falling is a complete misrepresentation of data. Yet if you showed this chart, you could not have that same headline. If you start making data understandable, your headlines would completely change. It's like things gone up, things gone down. We hear this about rates of exchange, prices of gold, but it's what it looks like over the longer term that actually matters. Because the price of gold one day to the next, unless you're buying one day and selling the next, you're not going to notice, right? Those of you who've invested in gold. I'm not suggesting we all have. Data is everywhere. I actually think we are drowning in it. And just because we've got the computer systems, we think that we can collect more information, more data, more data, more data. Back in the old days when I was in General Motors, I would walk into a test laboratory and I would see filing cabinets full of data. Masses and masses of it. Now it's a little more hidden, isn't it? It's on computer systems and computer databases, and we're drowning in it. But I think what we're lacking is information. We have the numbers, but we don't have the learning from them. We're just collecting data almost for the sake of collecting data. Where we do start talking about numbers, just like we saw with the unemployment rate, we tend to leap to conclusions, jump to conclusions about what that single data point or a series of data points is telling us. And we also chase numbers. We want a particular number. We go chasing after it. So we often have reports in table format, which tell us very little, and we get people reacting to individual numbers. But what we want to do is give people data in a way that helps them make better decisions. It's those better decisions that we want them to make, the right decisions. So let's look at some example data. Let's imagine that we are taking up a new business. We're going to open a restaurant on the corner. And this is our turnover in thousands of dollars a week. Right? And you can see in this last week here, we have got a huge week, biggest week we've ever seen. Everybody gets excited about it. What do you think you might do if you really think your business is increasing?
Hire more people.
Hire more people, get more tables, right? In Australia, it's very much we would expand onto the pavement and have tables outside as well as inside, right? So you'd expand. So if this is not really a genuine high result, but normal variability, what have you done to your profit?
Down.
Yeah, big time down, right? Big time down. The other way, suddenly we've got a result below 90,000. Despair, despondency. Oh my God, the bottom is falling out of the business. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? Come on, people. What are we going to do?
Fire them.
Sack them.
Yeah, sack a few people. Get rid of a few tables. Order less food. Right. If you do that, what have you done to your business?
Increase the variability.
Well, and you've also dropped it, right? Can I get back to the numbers that I had before if I don't have the same food available and the same staff available? No, I can't. It will actually show that I will have dropped and I will stay dropped because I've changed my system. So my overreaction potentially to that data point means permanent damage to my system. So the data might prove that maybe I made the right decision, but if I'd made the wrong decision, how would I know? And this is one of the big problems of overreacting to data, is that you damage systems to the point where I can't get that next number. Right? I can't get back to that number if I have permanently changed my system because my system's not capable of that anymore. So obviously, if you look at this data on a run chart, you can see, but obviously, as Balaji was talking about, it's far more powerful in a control chart. So when we look at it in a control chart, we can see normal variability. So I'm assuming everyone's heard of a control chart, but maybe not. So I'll do some explaining. This is the average. This is the upper control limit and the lower control limit. For simplicity purposes, I'm going to describe them as 3 standard deviations apart. And that shows us the expected variation. This was developed by Schuhart 100 years ago to tell us what the variability is like in the process. So you can see the 121. I'm not saying don't open a bottle of champagne and enjoy the higher week. Please feel free to do so. But don't think it's different because it's not. It's just the up end of the normal process. Similarly, when you get that lower result, don't despair. Just wait till next week. It should bounce back. We have a moving range chart at the bottom, which is just the differences in the data points. I might explain that at a different session. But this is telling us all this data is just normal variability for the system that we are seeing. So let's talk about that. What they're telling us is when something is truly significant and when we truly need to do something about it. When data is normal, what we want to do is prevent that over control, because as soon as you start over controlling, you will put more variability in the process or you will shift the process. And it could be adversely and is likely to be adversely. My favorite story of over control is that I was very fortunate to do some work in Fiji, which is a Pacific island and very hot, very humid. And there was a temperature controller in the reception. And if you sat in reception for any length of time, you would see as people walked into the office, they changed the temperature on the dial to the number that they thought it should be. So if you sat there for half an hour, you would see this temperature dial moving backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And people in the office were carrying jumpers into their office because sometimes the air conditioning is just really bad and they have to put a cardigan on or a jumper on, right? And sometimes they have to take it off because it gets very hot. The temperature was all over the place. So when we'd done some training, the area manager said to me, he said, I think we've got over control in our office with temperature. And I said, I think you are right. So he kept the dial there to give people the enjoyment of changing the temperature as they walked in and out of the office, but actually put a new controller in his office in a cupboard. And everybody became very happy with the temperature in the office because it was nice and consistent. You knew what to wear, but they all had the satisfaction that it was the temperature that they had chosen. So happy ending, but a beautiful example of over control. The more you adjust something, the more you change it, the more over control you get. But we also want to prevent under control. If something is genuinely changing, we need to be on top of it. We need to understand it. The other thing control charts do is tell us that how things change over time. So let's talk a bit more about what Balaji was talking about, special and common causes. Right. So you're going to work. What is some of the normal variability that impacts your time when you arrive at your place of work? What impacts on you? Come on, throw out some ideas.
The route that I take.
The route that you take, yeah?
The car that I drive.
Traffic congestion.
Traffic jam.
The traffic. Yep.
Yeah. Traffic lights, maybe. Do you have lots of traffic lights in India? I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, yeah, we do. We don't follow them, but we do.
Oh, they're for information only, are they?
Some other drivers some other drivers doing makeup on the road and reading whilst they're driving.
Using the mobile and
Yes.
maybe the no parking space.
So what are some of the special causes that would cause you to be really late?
A snowstorm.
An
Oh,
accident.
now there's an American example. That wouldn't occur in Australia. Does it occur in India?
We have rains. We have torrential rains.
Yes. And then everybody bumps into each other, right? When the torrential rains, because particularly
it
in
slows
Australia.
down. It comes to a snarl. We slow down very badly.
Well, in Australia, everybody drives in a certain condition where it's dry. And then when it rains, they're too close together and somebody stops and they all crash into each other. So a car accident, you may get a tire puncture, etc. And when you go into your place of work and you're late, and your boss says, "Why are you late?" Do you think they're looking for a special or a common cause answer?
Special.
Yeah, special. They're looking for special, right? Because they want to hear, oh, there was a car accident, got caught up in it. Or what they don't want to hear was normal variation answer. They don't want to hear that a lot of traffic lights were on red this morning. There was a bit more congestion than normal, right? They don't want to hear that because that means You could be late every day, right? So what control charts tell us, and you can put how long it takes you to go to work, is what the normal variability or the common causes are. So, and what is special causes? That's what we're trying to do here. So if we look at our weekly sales, we can see there's no major special causes in this. There's no special causes in the top chart. But it tells us this is our normal variability. And I'll tell you, I don't think this would be a very profitable business. I don't know very much about it, but their average is $100,000 worth of sales. That sounds pretty healthy. But their variability is 120, let's round it, 125 down to 82,000, 83,000. So you've got a 40,000 variability on $100,000. That's a hell of a lot of variability, right? All right, so that means making money would actually be quite difficult in this business because you need the consistency to improve in order for you to be able to order your materials from your suppliers, get the right number of staff, right? You can see the slow days, they would have people standing around. The busy days, they would struggle for the number of people they've got. So having a great turnover is a good thing, but if it's inconsistent, you will lose money because it's not it is predictable, but it's predictably bad in this case, right? So how do we respond? So first of all, unexpected variability, special causes, negative. So we have a bad special cause. So we've got to take immediate action, usually to overcome it and prevent reoccurrence. We're driving to work, we get a puncture, right? Special cause. We've got to fix the puncture, but we also need to think about how did I get into a situation where I got a puncture? Should I be doing more maintenance on my car? What preventative action should I do? Can you reduce the chance of that negative special cause occurring? Ideally, we'd like to. Sometimes you have to live with them, and I'll give you an example. So in Australia, we have a big desert in the middle of Australia, and it's called the Nullarbor, which is actually is Latin for no trees, right? And we have thousands of kilometers of rail line, and it's virtually the only thing that's in it. So what do you think happens when lightning occurs?
Fires.
Well, it doesn't necessarily create a fire, but it hits the rail and knocks the signals out.
Oh, the rail, yes.
Yeah, so it hits the rail because the only thing for it to really come in on is the rail. So it hits the rail and knocks the signals out. Doesn't happen every day, only happens certain times of the year. It is like a negative special cause. But in that case, how do you stop lightning? You can't. But what you now have to do is work on your system so your system's robust enough to deal with that negative special cause. Positive special causes. I think these are the least taken notice of. When things are going good, people are not asking the question, why are we going well? It is the least asked question that would be of benefit because people aren't saying, why are we going well? What did we do? I'm meeting with a client tomorrow and their data has completely turned around in the last 2 weeks. And I'm eager to know why and how they've done it. I'm even more eager to know how do we make sure it stays there all the time and we don't go backwards again? How do we lock that improvement in so that it can't go back? How many times have you tackled something and you revisit it? When you get the improvement, you've got to lock it in. You've got to understand why have we improved and lock it in. The next one, oops, sorry, clicked in the wrong place. Normal variability, common causes. You have to do systemic change. So if I want my restaurant to be more consistent, I have to think about what is causing the variability. What am I going to do to create a consistency in the sales? I have to understand and start drilling down on what are the common causes of variability for people to come in and out of my restaurant. So I have to start thinking about that. Getting to work faster. So I've been very fortunate to work with some very rich people in Australia. And one of them was very frustrated by the amount of time it was taking him to get to work. So he had decided to change his system entirely. He built a helicopter pad at his home, and he built a helicopter pad on the top of the building he owned. And he now helicopters to work, cutting out all the traffic. It's not good on very windy days, but other than that, he gets to work much faster. It's a complete systemic change. If you're not happy with how long it takes to get to work, you either have to change where you work, change how you get there, or change where you live. But it's a systemic change. Every single day, you will be doing something different. Your system will be different. This is what Schuhart taught us in control charts. Because control charts tell us how to respond. They prevent this over and under control, assuming that something special is going on when it's normal variability and overreacting to the data. It prevents under control, assuming normal variation when actually something different is occurring. So we tend to over control when things are on the negative part of normal variability, and we tend to under control when we have positive special causes. And this is why control charts are important, because our guts are not reliable. Going by your guts is just not enough. Control charts tell us when processes are performing well. They tell us what we are doing right. So when things are going well, we can examine that. They tell us the processes that are not performing well. We can compare them and understand which ones are good versus which ones are bad. And we can start talking about why and whether it's systemic or it's a deterioration. If you look at data over time, you can see how things have changed. And the big thing we're trying to do is show problems before it comes to the point where the customer would notice. That's ideally where we'd like to be. Right? So that if we get a problem, we get a shift in the process, we get some special causes, we're still in a situation where we're controlled enough to be within what the customer needs. They tell us it's a data-driven review of a process, not, oh, I think this, you think that, not a debate. It's showing us the scale of the issue so we can really understand exactly what we're facing. What I like most about charts is they show the improvement achieved. So that when you do get improvement, you can visually see it, everybody can enjoy it and celebrate it. So we can use control charts to improve any product and service. What they will help us do is reduce waste, and they will help us reduce rework, because they will help us start to see special causes. We can react to those, help us understand what the common causes are and work on improving those. If we do these things, we get improved productivity and we get reduced costs, which obviously increase profits. So you can use control charts in key areas to improve, show how to go about improving them, because they will show you positive special causes, negative special causes. They will demonstrate whether you've made an improvement. I love this particular aspect of it because someone in the company I was working with made a change to a process. It made diddly squat difference. No difference whatsoever. Huge learning. They were convinced this would give them improvement, and it didn't. It absolutely didn't. And they were, what was really happened was it made them think. oh my goodness, we thought this was connected to this and we now discover it isn't. Showing things not working quite often brings about greater improvement than if you got the improvement in the first place. It's always fascinating to see people learn. You can apply control charts to absolutely anything. If you've got a number, you can do it. So in manufacturing, obviously dimensional, reliability, right? So how is reliability of your equipment? I've got this working with one of my clients at the moment where these are new plants and their reliability is very poor. And we're comparing the reliability to some of their existing plants that are 20 years old and by far more reliable. And so we can understand that the new manufactured plant is nowhere near as good in terms of reliability. We're challenging the suppliers with that information in a way that is easy for everybody to see and understand. You can tackle downtime in the same way. You can tackle waste, scrap, waste, understand it. One of my clients, oh, when we make this product, we always have a higher scrap rate. Really? When you chart the data, it doesn't show that. It's interesting when humans make it's basically a paradigm. When this happens, I think this happens. Every time that's successful, people tend to see it that way. When it's not successful, oh, it's an anomaly. So we're not very good at being filters of data. We tend to filter to what we think, not to what the reality is. Rework, you can monitor those things as well. If you're in the service industry, it's the same. Service and admin, you just measure different things. Delays. So I've done, as I've said before, I've done quite a bit of work in healthcare, and you can look at delays in the emergency department, for example. Wait times in emergency departments. You can look at the quality of the service that you're providing. Although I think are we all tired of surveys yet? I don't know about you, but you can't breathe, move, or sneeze in Australia without being asked to do a survey, right? My question is, what do you do with the data? But quality of service is an aspect that you can take, and it can be done well. One of my customers is a funeral director, and they do a survey to the next of kin when they've completed a funeral. And they've been doing it for a few years now, and we've only had one person not return the survey, which I think tells you a lot about when you're actually surveying about something that's important, people will respond. Otherwise, you only get those people who are really happy or really fed up. The vast majority in the middle don't tell you anything. But you can monitor the amount of time taken. One thing that I find very fascinating is how much time we are spending manipulating data and manipulating information to fit into IT systems. There seems to be a big propensity for that at the moment. Insurance companies where they get the information and then they've got to make it fit into the system. So it takes them a huge amount of time because the people who created the IT system haven't thought about how to get how the information flows. So information flow and data flow is a really important one in services. And then the accuracy, and there's still rework. Anybody who's been involved with software production will know there's lots of rework, or potentially lots of rework, right? Mm-hmm. So you can measure anything. You're not limited by that. Some tips to successful data analysis that I will give you is, number one, why are you collecting the data? If you can't answer that question, what are you doing? Why are you bothering? All right? So why are you collecting the data? What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to get out of that information and that data? How are people going to react to the data that you collect? Have you thought about when you present this data? how people are going to react to it? Could people overreact to it? Will people just ignore it? But you need to think about how managers or how supervisors or people you present the data to, how they're going to react to the numbers. Will it give you improvement? Or are you just collecting data for the sake of collecting data? Is the data what you think it is? I think this is something that we'll probably talk about at a later session, but in more detail. But I tend to find that when I'm working with people and collecting data, quite often what they think the data is and what it really is quite different. I'll give you an example. We were looking at the rates. This is in a very large manufacturer of paint, and it's a very specialist paint, and it's for the marine industry. And we were looking at on-time deliveries. And most countries were running around 70 to 80% on-time deliveries. But one of the divisions was 100%, month in, month out. Month in, month out. So how are they so different? The answer is, of course, they're not, but the way they're collecting the data is different, right? So what this particular country had done was trained the customers to ask, when can I have the paint? They would then work out the date that they could do it, add a couple of days, and give them that as the date. That's the date that went in the system. They always achieved it. Passed on, 100% conformers, thank you, manager. Right? Whereas in other countries, they were actually asking the customer when they would like the paint. Two totally different systems, two totally different sets of data. Two different methodologies, right? You can't compare them. So have you defined it clearly? Is it being collected consistently? So if you go to the people who are collecting the data, are they all doing it in the same way? So what I hope I have got you to think about today is, I like this Socrates saying, I cannot teach anybody anything, I can only make them think. And that's what I want you to do, is think about data that you see every day. Is it useful? Are we doing something worthwhile with it? What are we doing with it? If it's really worthwhile, then do something useful with it and understand its normal variability. Understand when special causes are occurring. These are not difficult techniques. You just have to be willing to look at them properly. It can make an enormous difference to your business. I'm done, Dr. Ed, if I can stop sharing.
Oh,
Okay, shoot. We have 45 minutes of Q&A.
You asked me for a 30-minute presentation and I went 40.
On the dot. On the dot. And I'm collecting the data right away. One of the fundamental things I have as a Gemba guy, Jackie, in an organization, and I've been a shop floor guy, and what I observed for 40 years plus my consultancy, etc., is that it's the quality department that takes the total responsibility for the control. They're the only people who understand variation. And operations guys don't want to understand variation. Top management doesn't want to understand variation. And for 100 years that we talk about control charts, I got enough people in India, Bhupesh, Vikas, Kamal. How many have you seen control charts in your Gemba? Come on. How many of you in India?
Not at all.
Right.
Not a single one.
Vikas.
Right.
Balaji, sir. We don't see
Yeah.
control charts in the Gemba, sir.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, where you and I involved perhaps, but otherwise, when you get into a company from the outside, no.
So when
They have bar
you
graphs.
Saji, when you and I are involved, till we are involved, we see it in the shop floor. After we go away, it goes into the dirty desk of the control P or the quality management. I don't know whether it's universally true.
Right. So yeah, it's very important that it's in the right place. And I actually think leaders really enjoy the charting once they get used to it.
Yeah.
Because it tells them so much more information, right? And once you start presenting data this way, they never want to go back. Right. So, but you have it, you're right, you're doing it leader by leader, which I agree is not the ideal method. But yeah, once you teach leaders about variability and what they're missing out on by looking at a table of numbers, their opinions change and their expectations change. So it's about that education. It's that educational piece. It's that presented, right? So I don't ask permission. When I'm involved in a company, I will present the managers with their data report that they're looking at. So they might be looking at a monthly report. I will go away, convert that, show them, well, actually, guys, I don't know what you came up with, but these are the things I believe are important. Right. And this is why. And then I will show them the charts. And quite often it's not the things they're looking at. They've got no idea that these other things are happening, right? Because they're looking at a blunt instrument. I think it's estimated that something like 1 in 1,000 people can interpret table data really well. That's not very many. And chances are it's not us, right? Statistically, we haven't got anybody on the call. Maybe we do, but you understand what I mean, that why do we think managers can just look at a sheet of paper and come to great conclusions? And then we criticize managers for making poor decisions, but we provided them with poor information. So we need to think about the way we present data to managers and say, well, this is the way you've asked for it, but I've actually done this extra analysis and charted it for you. And you can see it's actually telling us an interesting tale, because that's what control charts do. They tell you the story of the process, right? Nowadays, I call them control charts. I know Don Wheeler prefers process behavior charts, but I keep to the original title. It does tell you how processes change over time. Tells us a story of the process. It's like the difference between seeing one picture in a movie versus seeing the whole movie. How are you going to work out what's going on from one still in the movie? You need to look at the whole picture.
Jackie, sorry.
Yeah, go on. I'm just trying to catch up with some of the stuff in the chat. There's a lot going on in the chat. So I need somebody else to summarize that for me.
Yeah, I had Vikas to do that for you. Vikas, take it over from there. What I liked about what you said is that very often we provide the managers, the leaders, the data and not the information. And that's what I like about what you said. That's my takeaway right now. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Because whatever is chat, can you spell it out for Jackie?
Sure. Jackie, I'll go one by one to each question, right?
Okay.
So the first question on the chat is, how does misunderstanding variation lead to wrong decisions or frequent firefighting?
That's exactly what it leads to, is firefighting, right? So if you react to normal variability, you're assuming that there's a fire there when there isn't. And so that leads you into a firefighting situation. So you're creating the fire to put out. And when in fact, if you leave it alone, it'll just sort itself out, right? So that overreacting to data is creating that firefighting mentality and leaves everybody looking like scared cats every day, right? Because you're reacting to every data point and you're putting pressure on people for something that is the normal variability in the process.
Okay. We have another question from Hendra. So do we use standard deviation in the formula? If so, then we need to assume our data is normally distributed.
Okay, so this is a statistical question really for a bigger day, but so if you actually, I think Don Wheeler has put all his seminars onto YouTube. Bill, do you know if they're all up there yet? Or you don't
Yes,
know?
they are. They are.
They are,
They are
right.
out there.
So I would refer you to Don Wheeler. He's done a whole series of seminars on control charts and understanding variability. And the need for normality is not necessarily there. Most processes with a normal control chart, and we use actually something called an estimated standard deviation rather than actual, but if you go into Don Wheeler's stuff, it's absolutely brilliant, really easy to follow, and I think you will get a lot of information. I'm happy to talk about control charts and calculations and things another time, but I think it's probably a little bit beyond what we're going to try and do here right now, yeah?
Mhm.
Yeah. But if your process is not quite normal, they'll still work. It has to be really a very non-normal process. And if it's very non-normal and that's okay, because my question would be, if it's not normal, why is it not normal? But there's lots of situations where we artificially collect the data, which causes a problem. Then you have to think about it a little bit harder. But they're still easy to apply.
Sorry to interrupt. Could you please spell the name again? It's Don Leela
Don
or
Wheeler. Yeah, Wheeler. Yeah.
Leela?
Wheeler.
Wheeler. Okay. Thank you.
I actually should put it in the chat. This is one of his books. Oops. So Donald Wheeler is the name. Wheel and then ER at the end. And this is a really, really good book, Understanding Variation. The Key to Managing Chaos. It's a lot about what we've just been talking about today, about comparing how managers see data versus the way they should see it. It's a very, very good book.
Mhm.
I don't know whether Bill's nodding away. He obviously agrees.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. I will go to another question. It's more about human behavior. So the question is, why do humans naturally overreact to variation, and how can we counter that?
Right. So I think some people think their job is to react to the data. Right. So you tend to get we kind of have this gut feel, but if you talk to people about where their gut feel is, often that gut feel is around certain numbers like 100 or 10, nice rounded numbers. And if it goes over that certain amount, then they tend to react. So like in the restaurant example, went over 120,000. We've never seen that before. Something must be different, right? So we tend to want to explain normal variability, which is just systemic variability. And it's not individually explainable. We seem to want to explain individual results. What we need to understand is focus on the ones that are really different to the ones that are just normal variability and try and stop people from that overreacting to results.
Thanks, Jackie. So the next one is, when should a leader act on a change in a metric or KPI, and when should they know?
So you need to control chart them. First of all, I've got a lot to say about key performance indicators, but generally they're not, right? So I see, here's our 120 key performance indicators, right? You'll frequently see that people are drowning in key performance indicators. And as I look through them, almost none of them have anything to do with a customer. And you think, where did this lot come from, right? And you actually driving back and making people think about what are really important to the organization. You can see that they're all internal, keeping the boss happy performance indicators, not actually key performance indicators, right? But if they are so important, you should be charting them, right? And then you will keep them to key, right? Because if you're charting them, you will be focusing on the ones that are important. Because what you will find is, well, that's really boring. That doesn't tell us anything. The system's great. Okay. It's actually not. It might be a key performance indicator overall, but in terms of the business today, and improving the business today, it's not where we're going to get our leverage, right?
Yes. So the next question from Ashok. Is there a typical time frame to watch a set of data points to then define the UCL upper control limit and lower control limit?
Okay, right. So you're going to love this answer, a reasonable amount of data. Now, why I say that is, right, so if you're creating data monthly, ideally we talk about 25, 30 data points. That's what we'd like in an ideal world, right? That's an awful lot of time. I'm not going to wait 2 years to construct a control chart, right? I'm going to go earlier, right? But I have a client, the one I'm seeing tomorrow, they create 2 million data points a day, right? So 25, 30 data points is nothing, right? It's like we've created that much, right? So it depends on the amount of data that you're generating. But so what I would term a reasonable amount of data. But you've also got to make sure that when you're looking at that reasonable amount of data, it covers the normal variability you would see in your business. Right. So for example, if I was looking at let's say the rail system in Sydney, and I was looking at on-time running, it's very different in certain months to other months, right? In the heat of summer, we have more rail delays because of track issues. In the heat of summer, we have a lot more tourists. We have New Year's Eve, which is one of the biggest rail events in the world, where 1.5 million people will travel on the train in a 2-hour period, right? So you have got to make sure that you cover the full. So if you studied it in the middle of winter and you studied it for 3 months over the middle of winter, you might have daily results, got 90 data points, sounds good, but you're actually limiting the data and you're not seeing the true system and the extent of the true system. So Deming used to refer to it as rare sense. You may have heard of it as common sense, but Deming definitely used to say rare sense. I'm sure Bill remembers that as well. It's about thinking about, well, what are the things that impact on the process? How will I look at them? When would they occur? So that I look at it over a reasonable time frame. I hope I've described a piece of string a little better than a piece of string, but it is difficult. In individual scenarios, it's easier to work out.
Yeah, it was a great insight. Thank you for responding on that. So now I'm moving to the next question. It's a bit long. So if a process that is highly people dependent, such as sales, it is challenging to commit to data collections, practically speaking. However, this has a lot to do with the progress of the company in some way. Is there any way to associate a kind of weightage to a data point so that the data collected will be closer to reality to see data?
Right. So the first thing I would say is manipulate the data as little as possible. I think you've got to be really careful, because by the time you've adjusted for this, adjusted for that, turned it into a percentage, taken away the number you first thought of, nobody can understand what the data is. So keep the data as pure as you can, because you were producing charts to help people understand data. If we've manipulated it to the point where they don't understand what the data is, we've already lost them. So you need to think about that aspect. Sales data is quite interesting to do, and it's really important because most companies suffer from high variability in the sales process. And then 1 month you're expected to make masses of something, and then the next month is quiet, and then you're making masses of something in another time frame, and it's other times is quiet, right? And it's the start of the process. You're actually building variability into the process by the sales demand, right? So you're actually putting a lot of variability directly into that process. So it's actually really important for salespeople to really understand the data and to understand the impact the sales process has on everybody else in the process. And I think that communication piece could be a lot better, certainly in the companies I see. right? So one of my customers, somebody's been out, made all these promises, and they're all sitting there going, there's no way that we're going to be able to deliver this. So everybody is now scrambling, working out how to deliver it. And what you've got to do is you've got to do it in a way that is systemic and that you're doing it together as a group, not isolated. So actually charting and understanding sales data and understanding the implications into the production process, I think is a really important part of this.
Yeah. So the next question we have from Ashok again. Although the Kathy has just put a comment there, like when there is a fear in the business, people often Jimmy the dead. I think that's the continuation of like what you just shared.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, this was one of the important things that Deming talked about was if you put people under enough pressure, you will get the number you want,
Right.
but it won't be reality. Right?
Yeah.
Just like in the paint example I was talking about, right? That person was the people who were taking those calls, the person who was in charge of that sales team was feeling such pressure from the manager to make sure that they got 100% conformance on delivery that they manipulated the customers. Right? So it's totally manipulated data. It's totally unrealistic. Control charts can help you understand when data's being manipulated, though. Right? So one industry I've worked in Australia, it was almost a cowboy. Australia's made up with a lot of convicts, right? You all know that, right? And sometimes it comes to the fore. And in this particular industry, you could see people were manipulating the data. If something was just out of spec, they would bring it into specification. And so you would get a normal distribution and then all the data piled on the spec limits and nothing out of spec. Right? And as an industry, everybody was doing this. It was just kind of the accepted practice, right? Until I worked with the government authority that was responsible for this industry, and it doesn't happen anymore now. And it's completely revolutionized that industry. And if you put people under enough pressure, you'll always get the answer you want. But it's not the right answer for the business, right? If we start shooting people who are messengers of data, you're actually shooting those people who are going to help you.
So I'll go to the next one. So do upper control limits and lower control limits needs to be continuously watched and adjusted?
Ooh, adjustment's a good question. So you would only adjust them if the process changes.
Right.
For
Okay.
what? Right. If you I found this in one of my customers where they kept adjusting their control limits. And so as they deteriorated, they adjusted their control limits to the deterioration, which destroys what the whole point of it is, right? So what you want to do is get your system working well. You're happy with the system and get your control limits in place. And then when you vary from those, you want to understand why. That's the whole point. The control chart's about asking the right questions at the right time. So if you're constantly changing your control limits, you won't ask the right questions. You won't ask them at the right time. So it really is about being very on point in terms of making sure that those control limits are correct. So yeah, you do have to watch every time you put new data in, you need to see how they're responding relative to the way you expected it to.
Great. So the next question we have from Sitong. So I would request to Sitong Shen if he can mute himself for the question, because it's a very good question and a bit long. So it's better to hear from Shane.
Hi, Shane.
Shane, we can't hear you.
No, we can't, and he's come off mute.
No voice.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we can. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. It's a microphone. Yeah. My question is based on the real study. That study from the Llama, the large language model happened in Meta, and everyone knows the DeepSeek from January, and that one fully like the Llama 4, the feeler, and Jackie just mentioned the firefighter process. That's triggered this question. And October 22, the whole FAIR lab, the fundamental AI research lab, is fully wiped. And that's a big feeler about the because I know the director of the fair and we have some insights in there. So the question is this, based on the Kaisan and the Lean thinking, how Dr. Deming copying such a maybe the most chaotic or complex situation because the capital investment already too heavy to fill. There's no space to fill. So it means based on the business, the IRIO return of investment, they must gain the perfect spec. So that push the industry have no back ways to return. A lot of AI leaders, they know what they did. They are very smart people. So in this situation, from the Kaizen and the Lean, how we balancing somehow. I know something we can do is very limited, but it's about a lot of people, about the unemployment, about the people's illusion, about many startup maybe quickly fail. It's about a lot of people's real interests. So that's why I asked this question in the chart. Yeah. This is a whole background. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's about studying why companies fail, right? And understanding if there's any predictors of those failures. I also think that we've turned into a society which is pushing short-termism to a point that is unachievable. That we have got so short-term focused, we've lost what the long-term benefit is. And so you see, return on investment. When I was working with Bill and I was back in General Motors all those years ago, right? I wasn't working with Bill in General Motors, but when I knew Bill, return on investment, 3 to 5 years was acceptable. I now have a customer where it's got to be less than a year for your return on investment. How do we expect to make long-term improvement when we have got these short-termisms that are causing us to perform and behave in a totally different grab manner as opposed to understanding long-term systems? I think it's the way we've set ourselves up to fail beautifully. I think that's a long part of the problem, that understanding what your long-term purpose is, what the purpose of the system is, has been lost.
Yeah. Another follow-up question to Jackie is that the learning, we follow the learning curve. New knowledge, we practice at Jimba, and then we get the license back. Based on your observation to today's AI, we are all living in this age, how long may being an AI leader to finish this learning, or how agile or how flexible the AI leader should keep this piece to practice. For example, they are very respectful for Dr. Deming's wisdom. They want to practice the lean thinking in the age of AI to remove the risk, to do the good to their organization. But they need to balance and rebalance, right? Can you give some very practicable advice? Those AI leaders, uh, how they get the signal and the practice or this kind of learning circle, how long they must be done, or else it's too long. Because I witnessed many AI leaders, they are not willing to be willful blindness, but they just feel the whole environment they are involved in is out of their control. They have to do something to let their team survive or something like that. And then they lose the balance again and again, and then themselves even wiped out or burned out. It's a very tragedy. Yeah, so that's why.
Yeah, it's very difficult to answer the question because I don't really understand the details of the problem that you're describing, but you never know how long it's going to take you to go through an improvement cycle.
Okay.
If you knew that, you probably don't need to go through the cycle because you would have to understand what the problem is, understand what the solution was, and how quickly you could adopt it, right? So you would, if that's the case, you don't need an improvement cycle. You just need to get on with it, right? So I don't see how you can ever answer that question. I mean, I've tackled problems which look really complex, and we've been able to solve them in a very short period of time, because when you actually get into it a bit deeper, you discover that actually it's not as complex as you thought, and vice versa. Something that looks so simple, and yet it's really deceptive because there's an awful lot of variables there that you just didn't see. Sorry, the heavy rains reappeared again. Sorry, it's getting a bit dark.
Yeah,
it's true. Yes,
you can't possibly know, right? So, yeah, sometimes I've gone into projects where, the feeling has been that we're going to get them done in a couple of months, and they've taken way longer than that. One project where the expectation was it's going to be a couple of years, and we'd finished it inside a month. You can't know because you have to go and explore what the problem is, and until you know what the problem is, you can't possibly know how long it's going to take you to fix it or solve it or understand it, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the process.
Yeah. But thank you, Jackie. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. So we have 3 more questions left, and I would also request to the participant to put some more questions if they can put into chat, or they can raise the hand so that we can invite them to speak. So the next question is about how do we decide the frequency of data collection for a process industry?
Okay,
This
so
is
that's
from Bushpesh. Yeah.
So this is the whole subject on its own, but what you're trying to do is pick up the variability in the process. So if you sample way too frequently, you will get very little value. If you sample too infrequently, you will get very little value. So sometimes what you have to do is go and collect a lot of data, understand how the process changes to work out when you should and how frequently you should check that process. Now, one of the things that I find very frustrating is that we tend to pick things as daily, weekly, monthly, annually, or quarterly. So like the sun and how long it takes us to go around the sun is controlling the system. Where's the logic, right? So you actually need to understand what's impacting on the system, and then from that, you can work out how frequently you should be testing, how frequently you should be sampling.
Yeah, thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
What control charts do is they will tell you really clearly if you're sampling too frequently or not often enough. So if your data's all over the place and there's no pattern to it and it's just a mess, chances are you're not testing more frequently enough and you need to do more. But if you've got data that shows, lots of things the same thing, lots and lots of data points that are telling you basically normal variability, but there's lots of them, you're sampling too frequently. So the process will tell you when you study a control chart if it's too frequent, if it's not frequent enough.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhupesa, for asking question. The next one is around why reducing variation more important than just reducing defects. This is from Nitin. Yeah.
Right. It depends on how you view that, but if you reduce the amount of defects, you will reduce the amount of variability as well. The two things go together. They're hand in hand. They're best friends, right? So if you reduce your variability, you've got the opportunity to be more in specification, reduce your defects. So it's one is the cause of the other. if that makes sense. Does that make sense or not make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The next one is from Pratik. So, are secondary and tertiary industries have more than variation and the primary one?
Okay, so you can pass variation from company to company. That's basically, or from process to process. So if you start with a lot of variability, chances are it's just going to grow as it goes down the process. So tackling variability at the start of the process always makes more sense.
Yeah. Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah. So the last one is from Hendra. Does the only rule to see a special cause is when we see there is data points outside UCL or LCL?
There's other rules as well, trends, etc. We can talk about that at another time if we want to. But yeah, again, if you go back to the Donald Wheeler information, it's all in there as well. But yeah, trends are a really interesting thing about when people think there is a trend versus when statistically there is a trend. Those two things don't tend to be connected together. People want to see a trend way before a trend really is there. So seeing and understanding trends, high trends, low trends are really quite important, particularly when you're looking at control charts.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jackie. Thank you for taking us through the answers of this question. I really appreciate those. So that's all from the question side of the thing. Over to you, Dr. M.
Yeah. What is so scary is everything that we guys in the Gamba who looks at the machine, the noise of the machine and all that sort of a thing. The minute it comes to statistics and control charts, we back off. I'm sorry, telling you the reality of the Gamba. Just sharp guys don't bother about the data. It is these quality people who sit in the AC room with their computers on, they start collecting data, which by the time the product is already dispatched. So how do we tackle this?
So it's actually interesting because in Australian manufacturing, we don't tend to do it that way. The people who are in the production process do their own quality checking. A vast majority of processes these days. They're responsible for their processes and they're responsible for their quality. So we don't tend to see this concept of a quality control department. It used to be very much the case years ago, but I'm seeing a definite shift away from that. Balaji, I think we're getting a lot of background noise from you.
Not from me.
Jackie, I have a question to what you said, right?
Who's that?
So we don't have quality control or quality assurance in organizations, and it is like, does it not create a bias when you are checking your own work or your own data? I mean, I'm just seeking clarification.
Right. So we have quality departments with people who create systems and procedures and methodologies. And also it's about giving that responsibility to people to do the right work and to make sure that they have the tools and are able to ask for help when things are not going well. Okay. So, but what does if you have somebody inspecting somebody else's work, what does that tell the person who's doing the work?
I don't trust them.
Yeah, I mean, you're doubting them, their integrity and things like that. But the format that works in India is you have a separate quality department. In fact, if you are extensively in BFSI and BPO, and in BPO, it is like QC on QC. So you would have a quality control team who would monitor the work of operations, and then there would be a quality assurance who would monitor the work of quality control. And this, they term it in terms of 8I check. That so it was with one of the financial services company that I worked with, and they have this concept of 8I check. So I was a little curious on understanding how it works there. So
yeah, it's a different I think if you're giving your work to somebody else to check, I'm not sure if that's right, but the next person will pick it up, yes or no. You know, it breaks the responsibility. Once you break the responsibility, there's a German saying that says if you put people on stools, the problems will fall between them. Right? And so if you and it's about being together as a team and making a quality product from the start. You can't inspect quality into a product. You just can't. You have to build it in.
It's total culture change that you're talking about then.
It is a big cultural change. Yes. And you have to have the right people and you have to have the right leadership to do that. I apologize if you're getting a lot of rain noise. It's now coming down quite thunderously. I think we're getting you some of your monsoon weather, Bill.
Well, Jackie, you know what? I love the question that Zankana asked. And the challenge before Zankana is this, that she is the ASQ chair of the Indian chapter. So you have a lot of responsibility to respond to your question and the feedback that you got from Jackie Zankana. You're the chair of ASQ India.
Inspect the inspector, and then inspect the inspector's inspector.
I mean,
that's how Indian organizations work, right, Balaji?
That's why, Zankana, that's why you are there in the ASQ to change it. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Yeah, and Jackie will help us for that. And of course, Bill is always there to
Bill is always
there. And don't forget Balaji. He is
let's name each and everyone in this room.
No, because Balaji is just 2 hours drive from Mumbai, where you and me are. Thank you, Zankana, for that question.
Thank you.
I actually think quality control people, that their role in the world should be to make themselves obsolete. Right? Because if the system and the processes you've got in place are really good and strong and robust, and people are able to produce quality products, you should become not an important part of the system anymore. That's when we know we succeeded, right?
Yeah.
Actually.
Right.
Well, we still have got 10 minutes more, and I'm going to capitalize on that.
Oh, if you want to. You've asked me to do something monthly. I think people should put forward some suggestions about what they would like to do. I take it we're doing this from next year, right?
Yeah.
I'm Australian. We don't work in December. Hopefully the sun will come out. We get ready for Christmas. We take our summer holidays. We do all
what we did in India, we are a little clever at that. We understood that. So what we did is we requested Bill to come in December and be with us on the 20th and 21st. Aren't we clever Indians? We are clever Indians. So Bill is going to be with us on 20th and 21st, a 2-day seminar that he's going to do for us. So if you're not going away from Australia, if you're in India, join us and join the session with Bill.
Are you going to
India? Jackie, join us when Bill comes to us on 20th and 21st.
You're going to India, are you, Bill?
No.
I'm staying right here.
Virtually. Bill and Kathy will be with us 21st and 22nd.
Yeah.
Cool. That sounds wonderful.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so Bill, we still have a lot of time, so let's have some word of wisdom from you too.
So Kathy is having something to tell.
I will capitalize on everybody over here who knows Deming. So something from you, Bill?
Yeah, Kathy ma'am, you can say something. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kathy.
You have raised your hand.
One of the things that I find very interesting about control charts is the fear in the organization. and how it can affect the data that you collect. One of the examples I just recently saw is there's a McDonald's right around my house, and I always go and get coffee every morning. And they have a receipt where you can go in and fill out a questionnaire about the quality and that type of thing. And they give you food back. Well, there happens to be this one McDonald's that is always rated poorly. So what they actually did was they jimmied the printers so that it wouldn't print out all the numbers, so you couldn't fill out the report. And I just found that fascinating that, well, they're not going to like what they get. I asked them what they did with the data, and they said to me, well, we only get really bad things back or really good things. We just don't do it anymore. And I found that fascinating.
I think more and more people are finding that, right? That surveys really don't do anything for you. They're really quick, cheap. That's what happens. You hear from those people who've had a really great experience. They want to tell you how happy they are. You hear from those people who've had a really bad experience and they want to remind you how bad it was. And everybody else doesn't bother. There's some statisticians around that might do. I don't know about Bill, but I tend to fill them in when I can. But the vast majority, so the actual bit that you're interested in, like how your average person finds you, you don't know. You really don't know.
Yeah, they normally have questions for which they already know the answers.
Yeah. So prime example, right? So I use my car's very important to me as well. Bill won't be surprised about that. When you're in the motor industry, there's something, cars get into your blood somehow. Anyway, when I take my car to get serviced, it's an amazing experience. It is just out of this world. You drive on into the driveway, somebody comes out immediately, opens the door for you, greets you by name, knows all the in and outs of exactly what you're there for, assists you, and off you go. And by the time I get home again, so they can give me, they loan me a car or they give me a lift, whatever. By the time I've got home, I've got a full diagnostic about, because they know I've got an engineering background, I get a full diagnostic about the car and how it's performing. And so I know what works, if there's any additional works. They've got it in the email. I authorize that. We've already agreed the time I'm picking it up. If we have to and then you go and you have the same experience as soon as you walk up. They bring out the car, sign on the dotted line, and off you go. It is just an amazing experience. But you have a survey that you have to fill in. And the manager was telling me the other day that if people don't give them 9 or 10 out of 10, they have to respond to the boss as to why it's not 9 or 10. And it was like, oh my goodness me, right? Whoa.
Same here.
Yeah,
and I have refused to give a feedback because they want a 9 or a 10. So I said, wait for it. And I'm hounded with calls. Please fill the survey and please give us a 9 or a 10.
Yeah, that's right. But Bill will be happy to know I drive a Ford.
But Jackie and Balaji sir, the reason why they hound is because it's linked to their scorecard at the end.
Yeah, it's all. You learn all this, Alhana. We are at day 3. Wait till we reach day 4 and 5, then you'll know.
So, in my view, these the benefit of the voice of customer is there when you are independently checking it, in the sense that not linking to anybody's scorecard or anything of that sort. Then one can see more value in it, and ideally it should be linked to what the continuous improvement that you have brought out of this particular feedback. And the project should be rated rather than rating the if you've got a 4 or a 5 on a voice of customer.
It comes back to those questions I was asking before, right? Why are you collecting the data? What are you going to do with it? Is it really useful to the business?
Yeah.
And people just think they should be collecting it.
It become like a routine.
So it becomes a routine thing and nobody takes as much notice of the results, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sitong,
let's.
you got a question, Sitong. Your hands are up.
Oh, you're on mute again.
And Miss Walker's talk triggered a lot of things linked to the customer-facing frontline in American. My question to Jackie is that the difference between the culture difference between Australia and American, and everyone know American. Even we run the education university also driven by the business, right? But being educated should not driven by the business, right? So one is about the survey. In American on the front line, the survey is not really being manipulated heavily, and it means a real customer voice is very hard to deliver to the senior leadership. And the second is that frontline manipulate the survey because that's about the manipulate the data and to shape their metrics. And so that's no meaning to improve the customer experience. The second thing is about the culture. I remember Susan David, PhD, who wrote a book called Emotional Agility. Not emotional intelligence, emotional agility in Harvard Business School, in healthcare part. She said, culture is the one's behavior replicated. It means we are on the Jimba, and that kind of behavior in daily finally became organization culture because organization grew by people. So this is the second reflection in my mind. The third is that I feel how to say our how to say how we quickly to link, think, say, do. That one is between the customer unmet needs and the really deeds we practice on the at Jimba. That really matters because if we leave a huge think, say, do gaps on the customer-facing front line or product-facing front line, it means we are the problem triggers or we are part of entropy triggers because life is an anti-entropy procedure. And so this is the second thing. So sometimes when I try to practice Kaizen, I in American business, and sometimes I feel in Japan, we never ever talk about quality. I remember one of my former mentor, who is a surveyor, who wrote the difference. Good enough is not enough. He said when people talk about the quality, it definitely have a huge problem in the back because in the Japan, in the culture, we never talk about quality, and we just talk about how our behavior change. For example, in the subway, how we line up automatically, but in Manhattan, people never follow the traffic rules, right? So sometimes like this. So when people talk about quality, this is a signal that as long as in the organization someone talk about quality, this organization definitely have some problem hidden in there immediately. So this is something linked in my mind that quickly linked. Yeah. So that's all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of what you're talking about there is fear. That how often do you celebrate somebody bringing a problem? Do you celebrate people who bring you problems that need solving in the organization? Do we celebrate them?
No,
Or do
sometimes
we
we
shoot the
believe.
messenger, right?
Yeah,
So we shoot the messenger, so we bring fear. And where
Yeah.
you bring fear, you will not bring messages of where to improve. So fear is a huge thing. And we need to think about how can we celebrate when we find a problem? Right? It's something we need to celebrate. We need to flip it on its head. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not suggesting for a minute it's easy, but if we don't think about it, we certainly won't get there, right?
Kathy, go ahead, Kathy. Your hands are up.
Yes, I have one other question. How do you interpret data when you don't know how it's being collected? And what I mean by that is I was in a hospital, and after I was done, I had a survey. And the question was, did you have very, very, very good service? Or did you have very, very good service? Or did you have very good service? And so if you would look at that data, you would automatically think it was a wonderful hospital because they had very good service as the lowest rating. So when you're a consumer, how do you know how the data is being collected and what to believe?
Yeah, so as soon as I see anything like that, I'm writing to the management team of that particular organization saying, you are pulling the wool over your eyes. Look at your survey. You are learning nothing. I tell you what, the survey that really frustrates me is the kind of survey where you don't get to talk about the problem that you experienced. So they might talk to you about all the sorts of different aspects of what you experienced, but you don't have is there anything else you would like to say? So you've gone through the survey and said, well, actually, everything's okay, but I really need to talk about. So during the football final, so my team got into the grand final. So exciting. We didn't win, but we got to the grand final, which was really exciting. And we had a great time, but we were right at the edge where the balcony from the ones above were. Somebody lost their beer over the balcony. And you can imagine where that beer landed, right? So it landed on all of us underneath, right? I think they got about 12 people. They did an amazing job, right? And I wanted to talk about in the survey, you need to do something about the balcony above and at least put something in. So if somebody knocks a beer over, because the person leaned over and went, I'm sorry, I just knocked. It was a pure accident. We all know it was. But you need a system in place to prevent it from occurring. It's not hard. But I couldn't answer that in the survey. Did you enjoy the game? Yes. Was it a good spectacle? Yes. Did you enjoy the previous entertainment? Yes. End of survey. No, I need to talk about. That's the survey I hate. We've got Gilbert with a question. I think that would be our question.
Gilly, go ahead, Gilly.
Yeah, my question is more linking back to what we discussed earlier on, especially the part which we talked much around the KPIs. So I'm going to give you an example of a supply optimization planning process where you find that within the organization, there are disjointed KPIs within the different components which help the supply optimization value chain. So the challenge which I'm seeing there is that yes, control charts are being used, but it's more of rear view management in terms of all the time it's always looking at backwards at the firefighting process which is coming as a result of focusing on that. How do you help an organization like that?
Usually I find that key performance indicators are just wrong, right? And I think you might have some of that going on. You have to really make sure that the key performance indicators are aligned and that they're aligned with the customer, not with the internal management. And I usually find that that's what the problem is. And so then when you've really got true key performance indicators, they really are those things, right? And they're really telling you about the health of your organization. I always say to a management team, if you look at your KPIs, you should say, we're healthy, we're not healthy, we're a bit sick here. Does it tell you that? Does it tell you where the problems are in your company? If not, those are not your key performance indicators.
Okay.
So I think that's usually the fundamental problem is they're collecting the wrong data, or they think they're collecting the right data, but it's not actually being collected in the right way.
Jackie, we
Okay.
generally call it watermelon effect.
Oh, what the watermelon effect? What's the watermelon effect?
So from outside, all your metrics are green, but inside it's all red.
I like that very much.
So generally we see this that, you know, there are a lot many complaints, but when you look at your customer satisfaction score, it is like 85. And when you look at your complaints, it is like, you know, running in red for many of these segments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, good one. Well, analyze is good one. Very good.
I think it's time Bill Schirkenbach went and got some Z's.
No, just getting going here.
You're a night owl, are you?
It's time for me to say namaste again.
Yeah, thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you very much, and namaste.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Bill, for
Excellent.
coming. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you to everybody for attending.
Thank you so much.
Good.
Come December, before Christmas, 20th and 21st, Kathy and Bill are going to be with us. Right?
Sounds wonderful.
So when you register, see that you attend. Because I get 150 registration and only 20 turn up. So that's beautiful. And I don't know how to draw a control chart on that, Kathy.
We have the same problem with the 12 days. We have lots of people register, but we end up usually with a small core group.
The first trigger that I got from Texas, from Kathy, is how many are registered? I said 50. How did it turn up? 21. So don't blame me. Don't blame me. Anyway, lovely. It's a Sunday afternoon here. So I'm going to join my wife to have some, I don't know what she's going to make, right? So
I'm
thank you
going
very
to go
much.
and have roast dinner. Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Lovely
Bill.
to see
Thank
you.
you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.